Services Committee meeting together on November the 21st, 2016 at 12 o'clock. We've got three things on the agenda. First is declaration of surplus. Steve Moran, Fleet Manager.
The police department would like to request authorization to surplus 4 vehicles for the department. These vehicles have exceeded their useful life with the department. Maintenance costs are exceeding that which we feel is beneficial to keep in the department. The cost to the city would be limited to a graduated consignment fee. I did notice a typo in my report here. 20% commission on sales below $500, 15% for $500 to $750, and then from anything over $1,000 is limited to a 10% commission. These vehicles all exceed, in ranges from 82 to 143,000 miles. We'd ask that this be approved by council.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have one. We just approved the purchase of 6 vehicles, I think, here just recently.
Sure.
Were these the intended 4? Were these the ones that are being replaced by those 6?
2 of these vehicles, the Impala and the van on the bottom of the list, are actually associated with the previous declaration for replacement of 4 code vehicles, investigations, and report taker vehicles. The new patrol the other 2 on here have been, due to some vehicle shuffling in assignments, we were able to identify these 2 vehicles and use some of the replacements to, as a vehicle goes from patrol, it goes to SRO investigations. As the vehicles work down in less use capacities, we're able to stretch the mileage out of them a little bit. So the upper 2 vehicles are just a result of some shifting in the department with finding a way to use vehicles for a longer period of time with less daily use. The 6 patrol vehicles that were approved recently are to replace patrol vehicles.
Oh, I see. So then I just have a question out of curiosity here. Do you, only because I got into one of my vehicles the other day and it was just approaching 300,000 miles, and I went,
Sure.
Wow, I'm still driving this thing, and just barely. But is there a standard that as a fleet manager you go through and say, this is where, not just based on, it doesn't sound good, but there's
Sure.
a citywide or municipality code that says when they get up to this amount of miles is when we need to start turning them over for safety and expense reasons? How do you make that determination?
Generally, when you're looking at a patrol vehicle, the mileage on the odometer doesn't necessarily reflect all of the wear and tear on the vehicle. When a traffic stop is made, keep in mind that vehicle is running during that entire period. Longer warm-up times in the morning, obviously, to start up the computers, link with our networks. And the use of the vehicle is a little more extreme. Not that they're chasing bad guys with them, but there are a lot of sharp turns, aggressive acceleration, braking, sometimes not necessarily off-road, but as they're hopping over a curb to control traffic at an accident in an intersection, they just get a little bit more aggressive use to them. Generally, after the 100,000 mile mark, you start toying with those transmissions, transaxle replacements, higher ticket items that can pretty much skew the entire maintenance history of the vehicle, because you're up to 80,000 miles, you're replacing components that are $100 to $200 replacement range. After that 100,000 miles, you start addressing $3,000 to $4,000 replacement items. So at that point, we try to reassign the vehicles to a lesser use capacities, SRO vehicles, code or investigations or something like that, to try to limit the amount of that aggressive wear and tear that happens on them for the rest of the mileage. But by the time they hit the 140 and they've served 3 different purposes with the department, then it's pretty much a standard rotation into the shop for the nitpick items that just keep mounting. They just
So then you're balancing that out of your maintenance budget.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes good sense. I think that's just interesting stuff to hear. And
Sure.
I don't think my car's being jumped over curbs on a regular basis, but I don't drive it all myself, so anyway. I don't have anything else.
Amy, do you have any?
No questions, no.
Okay, need a motion.
I would make a motion that we authorize I'm going to start that over. I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the declaration of 4 vehicles assigned to the police department as surplus and sell the vehicles at auction.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, electrical and natural gas franchise agreements, ordinance. Randy?
Good afternoon. The city is required to adopt ordinances to grant franchise agreements. Staff is requesting the city to adopt franchise agreements for gas and electric with Avista. These agreements would allow Avista to use the city's right-of-way for transmission facilities for gas and electric. Avista currently supplies gas and electric to most of the city's residents and businesses. Avista and its predecessors in interest have had franchise agreements for many years. The gas franchise goes back to 1953, the electric to at least 1977. The terms of the proposed agreements are substantially the same as the existing agreements, including a 5% franchise fee for both gas and electric. The terms of the agreements are 25 years, and they can be extended. So staff recommends approving the ordinances granting gas and electric franchise agreements with Avista. I'll stand for questions.
Go ahead.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the extensions available? So,
The extensions under the proposed agreements, once the 25 years has expired, then the agreements go on a year-by-year basis until the parties actually agree to a 25-year extension.
Any questions? I need a motion.
I move that we adopt the ordinances granting electric and natural gas franchise agreements with Avista Corporation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Randy. Item number 3, award of bid for Linden Well Pump Rehabilitation Project. Terry?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to come before you today. I've got a brief PowerPoint that I think will help kind of explain what we're looking at here. Okay, so in our O&M maintenance programs, we rebuild our pumps on a regular basis. This year, we're looking at the Linden Well. Our pump operator went through and did a comprehensive vibration analysis last year on all of our wells. The vibration analysis determines the longevity of the pumps on a scale of 1 to 10, scale of 1 being a near perfect or in balance, very low vibration pump, with 10 being about ready to come apart. Luckily, we've got none of them that are in the 8 to 10 range, but we have several that range from 4 to 7, and 4 being kind of borderline on the vibration analysis. On your longevity, we try to get about 20 years out of our wells, but with the higher vibration, that life is a lot less. The lower vibration, you can achieve that 18 to 20 year range on them. In our process, we've determined the Linden Well is the next suitable well to be rehabbed. This well is located on First Street, just north of the St. Vincent de Paul Donation Center. This is the well right in here. And this is what it looks from the street. There's a cul-de-sac right on the end of that street, and that's our well building there. What we do when we do the rebuild or rehab process on the well, this is a typical pump setup right here. And this is the electric motor that drives everything. These are what we call the bowls or pump assembly down here. This is what pumps the water. There's a shaft that comes down through and turns everything and draws the water up through and pumps it out into the system. There are pump columns, as we call them, or drop pipes, as they're also heard or commonly referred to, that the water is pumped up through. There's a stainless steel shaft. that runs down through the center with spider bearings. The spider bearings are every 10 feet to hold the shaft alignment. So we went out to bid in November for this November for the well rehab, and we only received one bid from Specialty Pump Services on the rehab. The initial bid was $52,254 on the base bid schedule. We had some additional items on there for motor replacement, if we needed to replace any of the columns or drop pipes, if we needed to replace any stainless steel shaft or spider bearings. We are proposing to go ahead and at least replace the electrical motor. That motor is the original motor on that and from 1966 has been rewound a few times. It's very inefficient, so we're looking at going to a premium efficiency motor. So we're asking for a contract, initial contract of $67,672, which would include the motor replacement. We have a budget of $80,000 to do the project for a line item. We did include other options besides the motor for replacement of the columns, the spiders, and the shafts, if any are necessary. So we're asking for authorization to spend up to the maximum budget if necessary. We'll do that in the field, make that decision. We're not anticipating maxing out the replacement costs. We're hoping to keep it fairly low. We do believe there will be at least a few of the pump columns that will need to be replaced. Those, and let's see if I've got a picture here. That's the stainless steel shaft. These are the pump columns right here. They're 10-foot sections of 12-inch steel pipe with the couplings on them. We do anticipate there'll be at least a few of those that we'll need to replace, but we'll need to make that decision in the field as it's pulled out. The order on these pieces of equipment are 8 to 10 weeks. That's why we're asking for authorization to spend if necessary in the contract. So this is an example of the replacement. They're lifted out with a crane in 10-foot sections. Very labor intensive. There's the motor as it would set. And once we have it in service, we flush everything, test it, back-T sample it, and before we put it all back online. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
How come we only had one bid?
That's what we had last year too when we did 4th Street. We've had the RC Worst, I've heard, doesn't have a large pump crew anymore, so I don't know if they're even doing them. I don't know why we didn't get any bids from United or H2L Well Service, but we haven't the last 2 times. Specialty Pump Services usually beat them every time, so I don't know if they've just kind of decided not to bid on those. I don't have an answer. So.
But those other businesses were contacted?
Yes, it was all advertised and
This was
they were
just a sole
contacted.
bid, not a sole source?
Yep,
Right.
right.
Okay.
What was the vibration reading of this well?
5.
5.
Okay, any other questions? Do you need a motion?
I move for approval of the bid for Linden Well Pump Rehabilitation Project to Specialty Pump Service as a sole successful bidder for the sum of $67,672 and a contract not to exceed the budget amount of $80,000.
And that budget amount was what you had budgeted into this fiscal year?
Yes, yes.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything? We're adjourned then. Have a nice Thanksgiving.